like to call this regular meeting of the Texarkana, Arkansas Board of Directors to order. At this time, we'll have the roll call.
Assistant Mayor Hallbush.
Here.
Director Brewer.
Here.
Director Minor.
Here.
Director Hart.
Here.
Director Roberts.
Here.
Director Harris.
Here.
Mayor Brown.
Here. At this time, we'll stand for the invocation and the pledge of allegiance. Please pray with me. Father, thank you for this day and all the blessings that you've given us, and thank you for putting us in these positions of public service that we can hopefully help our city and be with each and every one present here and guide and direct our decisions that we make. For it's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Just a couple of housekeeping items. If you have your cell phone with you, we'd appreciate if you would silence your cell phones. If you wish to address the board tonight, you're not required to, but if you would fill out one of the citizens' communication cards, get that to our city clerk, we'd appreciate that. We're going to move right on into our citizens' communication time, and at this time, I've been presented a request from Jennifer Harlan with AEP SWEPCO. Jennifer.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll take it on. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be with you. As Mayor said, I'm Jennifer Harlan. I'm with SWEPCO, and I have the privilege of officially presenting the city with a check tonight in the amount of $50,000 from the American Electric Power Foundation. It's truly a privilege to be able to partner with communities and that are doing great things. The project that y'all are working on with the recreation center, the revitalization of the center, is absolutely in line with the work that the foundation does. We look for opportunities to partner with any type of STEM education, learning, health, and well-being, and this center is going to do that for not just the youth, but adults and seniors. So congratulations. Appreciate your hard work, your forward thinking, and making this center a reality. So thank you, and again, congratulations.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Very nice gift.
Thank you, Jennifer. Well, let us have a picture time. Is there anyone else here that wishes to address the board during citizens' communication time? Yes, sir. Come forward.
Yes, sir. I'm a resident of Arkansas, and I'm buying property up in Mountain View because I'm retired. And I own Texas Social Security. I gotta get my card in the morning, but I'm doing well with that. And I'm looking to buy a 4-bedroom home, at least 4 bathrooms, walk-in closets for my granddaughters. Something very bad happened to my granddaughter, and
we'll see if we can't help you out. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Is there anyone else that wishes to address the board? Yes, ma'am.
I'm on, talking about Cottage Hill,
Okay.
down for, the lot. I don't even know who the, code enforcement is.
Okay.
Grass, snake. We can't pass.
Do you have the address of the lot that you're,
It's on the corner, of Spring and Ferguson. That's
Okay.
the city's problem.
okay.
Never get tracked, like twice a year. Sticks all in the park. Tree fell, cut it up, sit there. Sidewalk broke up. People not cleaning yards. Like
So
I said,
someone is living there,
Oh, that's a company property?
empty property on that lot? Okay.
My brother and I keep the one side cut, try to help keep the snake down, but it's not ours.
Okay.
Did
Okay. Okay, we'll follow up. Is there anyone else that wishes to address the board tonight? Citizens communication time? Okay. All right. Moving right along, we'll go into our presentation portions of the agenda. Right now, number one, we'll have a street study presentation given by Public Works Director Tyler Reed.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. Y'all got this book in front of you there. This is that big map over there, except in much more detail. That map there shows the overall condition of all of our streets. In here, you'll see the condition of the street. Well, let me go through this legend here. On this first page, you've got a legend. All right, that top part, your streets are rated from an excellent condition down to a lost condition. The lost roads are, there's nothing you can do to save them. You have to completely reconstruct. All right, so next down there, these next symbols, these are surface distresses. You'll see these on some of the roads here. Those are your areas where you've got some cracking. Next, you've got these red hashtags. Those are structural distresses. That means that you've got some base failure in that area. And then the stars are your potholes. And then you've got a water drop down there that's your drainage issue. But, so we've got, I'm not gonna go over this in real detail right now. At the workshop next week, I'll give y'all a little bit more detail, but I wanted to give y'all a brief introduction to it at least so you can review it and ask any questions that you might have. So this company came in, they drove every mile of our streets. I have noticed a couple of small ones that they have missed and a couple of private drives that they've included. So we've got a little bit of a wash there, but they drove about 266 miles of road. Now, when they're driving this, they note every single distress in that pavement, whether it be base failure, cracking, pothole, drainage issues. They note every bit of it, and they videoed the whole thing. So they have given me a program with it. It's an Excel workbook, but it is linked to Google Earth. The maps here that you have, those are layers on top of Google Earth. So I can go into this Excel workbook. I can click on this section of road. It'll take me to that section on the map, and it'll bring up the video of them driving it. So I've got real-time data there. This is something that I would like to update every 2 years or so I can keep that data fresh. So looking at the overall picture here, when they drive that road, all these distresses that they mark, all of that is put into this complicated formula, and there in each section of road is assigned a PCI value. It's a pavement condition index, so it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a rating of your road. So if you've got a 90 and above, you're in an excellent condition. 80s are critical, 70s are fair, and so on. I'm sorry, 80s are good, 70s are fair, 60s critical, and below 60 you have a lost pavement. So all in all, you see these little charts up here. Our biggest section is in a fair condition. We've got 56% of our roads in a fair condition. A fair condition means that it's got some minor cracking and maybe some potholes. We've got almost 20% in a critical condition. Critical is they've got some major cracking, major potholes, maybe some base failure here and there. And they estimate that the company that came in did it says 2 years till you're in a lost condition. I don't think that's necessarily true. You're probably a little bit longer than that, but it could be within 2 years. And we've got 17% in a lost condition, and that requires complete reconstruction. So overall, our entire street network PCI is a 63. So you're right there in that critical range. So as far as treatment for these, all your lost roads, you're looking at complete reconstruction. That means you're going in, taking probably the top 18 inches of that road and either stabilizing it, bringing in more base, and a complete new pavement. For the critical conditions, you're mostly looking at like a mill and fill. So you may have some base repair to do in there, but you're going in, taking off the top 2 inches of that pavement and paving it back. So it's a little bit cheaper repair there. Your fair condition streets, you want to address the cracking on those. So you're really just giving it a surface treatment, whether that be a fog seal, chip seal, scrub seal, something, or micro surface, just a thin layer on top, just to seal off those cracks so water doesn't penetrate there. So overall, we've got 45 miles of road in a lost condition. If you put a number to that, to complete reconstruction, you're probably looking at about $20 million to repair every one of those lost roads. In critical condition, you've got 49 miles. So in order to go in and do a bunch of mill and overlays, you're looking at another 15 million. So in order to get our entire network just into a fair condition, you're looking at about 35 million. I think I've told some of y'all in the past that we've got about a $40 million problem. So that's pretty close. And now keep in mind, these are just ballpark numbers too. But if we were to address all those fair condition roads too, we've got 151 miles in fair condition. To give all those a surface treatment, you're looking at another 30 million. So to get our entire network into a good condition, you're looking at 65 million. Now, I will say this. I talked with these consultants quite a bit and kind of compared us to other cities in the state. They said that they've certainly seen worse, but we're probably in that average range of where most cities look like, especially our size. So just to give you a couple more numbers, currently we've got over 2,000 potholes and over 6,000 areas of base failure. So take the base failure areas out of it. If we were just to go out and just do nothing but fill potholes, you're looking at 2 months straight. That's talking 60 days straight of nothing but filling potholes. So we've got a lot of work out there to do. Since I came here 3.5 years ago, I've been working real hard. I've been striving to get Public Works into a proactive frame of mind. And that would be addressing all of these fair and critical roads before they ever reach that lost condition. If we can ever get to that point, we would be in great shape. We can go do these proactive treatments and really take care of our street network. So there's just a little bit of information for you there. Like I said, I'll get into more detail next week. I'll bring you some more numbers and talk about costs. I'll give you a list of projects, of prioritized projects, and I'll break those out in wards for you all. And there's a couple of things I want to talk to you all about as far as getting ourselves into that proactive approach. There's a couple of different ways of going about it, but We'll talk a little bit more about that at our workshop next week. You all have any questions?
So Tyler,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead.
So Tyler, where are we at on our budget that we have money budgeted for pothole repair?
We budget every year about $250,000, and that is for street maintenance. Now, that goes to filling potholes, that goes to fixing drainage issues on our streets, that goes to concrete, that goes to many different things. That doesn't just go to potholes. But we easily spend it.
So I know that me talking to you on a regular basis about Ward 6 and the potholes we have out there and the repair that we need, I know we've talked about the fact that we've done so much work this year that we were worried about where we were going to end up at the end of the year with you being able to continue that work. Where are we on that? Or
We're good right now.
okay,
Unfortunately, we've had personnel issues and we've had rain issues at the beginning of the year. So we're doing okay right now. But we did get some setbacks, especially with personnel issues.
so those 2,000 potholes that you've estimated, would you have an estimate cost on what it would take? I know some of them are bigger and some of them are smaller, and I'm not going to hold you to, do you have any kind of idea of what that would cost to repair those?
Just material wise, 20 to 30,000 probably. That's just material. And that doesn't count our equipment or our labor. So it's not incredibly expensive to fill a hole, but on a good day, we may be able to get 25, 30 potholes filled. We'll go to the plant, fill up our patch trailer. We'll go out and we've also slowed down our rate at filling potholes too, because we're filling them more efficiently.
Are we using the same mix that the county is using?
I don't know what the county is using.
Because the
but
reason I ask you that is when I go out to Old Post Road, I can see where the maintenance that's happened with the county of what they use, and I've talked to the judge, and I think she uses a company up by Fayetteville.
Okay, so they're using a cold mix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and I know we've talked about hot mix and cold mix, but it just seems like when we do what we've done on the city side of Old Post, it doesn't last as long as what I've seen on the county side. And maybe that's just because that's a less traveled road. I don't know, but
I'm not sure. I would have to look into that specific location. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
But you guys have been out Old Post this past week.
Yeah, I think when we talked last week, they went out there that afternoon, I do believe.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks for all you do, Tyler. I know you got a tough job.
yes, sir.
So the streets that are fair, would any of those projects qualify for street aid through the state? Is the overlay, because street aid's only gonna cover an overlay?
Right. I wouldn't apply for one of the fair condition roads. I'd apply for one of the critical condition, because those fair condition, you're really just looking at thin surface treatment. You're looking at just filling those cracks. Whereas those state aid projects, they're real big on a mill and overlay. So that would align more with those critical road conditions.
When's the last time we got 3 projects? What year was that?
We did East 19th and Grimm Street in 2019. Yes. That was the last time we got that state aid money.
It's time for us to get some more.
That's right.
We know
Last
somebody,
time
we know somebody on there.
Yeah. Make it happen. We applied for Tennessee Road last time. We're in the middle of doing Tennessee Road right now. We went ahead and did it, so we'll have to apply for a different project.
When we had Sanderson, is that included in that same type of, nope, okay.
No, Sanderson was completed with our funds.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
sorry.
Yeah.
Tyler?
Yes, sir.
When is the last time the city did a joint project with the county on roads?
I couldn't tell you.
I mean, we've got.
I've never heard of one.
Going down Line Ferry, it just stops, and then you pick up the county, and then you turn, you pick up the city,
Yep.
and then, same way with Union Road.
Yeah.
And part of ours in some areas is worse than theirs, and vice versa.
Right.
And, I think that would be something, if we could look at, Because doing just one part of it and then
I agree
It's gonna be a
100%. Union Road is way up there on the list. I'll tell you
it's in
that
a
now.
horrible condition.
Yes. I will certainly speak with the county whenever I have a project towards that line. I'm sorry, you know what? We did a little bit of work with the county on North Sanderson, just a small bit. But whenever I've got a project that close to the line, I will absolutely give them a call and see if we can't join efforts and get a bigger project done.
Thank you.
Hey, Tyler,
Yes, sir.
got a question. You mentioned about proactive initiatives. In the workshop next week, will you by chance be going over any operational liabilities, like for as manpower to help maintain these structures that we're about to put monies in play to?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
right.
I'll be talking to you about virtually where we are now, what we're putting into our streets now, how many lane miles per year we're losing based on what we're putting into our streets. I'll give y'all numbers for where we need to be to really keep care of our network.
Yes.
And I will tell you what I need as far as equipment and personnel to make that happen.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Yeah, to take care of our investment.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
But Tyler, we have guys that are specifically designated to do nothing but pothole repair. We've got 2 individuals that are dedicated to that, is that correct?
Well, on our asphalt crew, we have 3.
3.
Most days, they are dedicated to potholes. We do have to pull them from time to time to address an emergency or something like that. But most days, they are dedicated to that.
So you were saying $20,000 in materials, 60 days, 2,000 potholes.
And we're steadily adding potholes every day, too.
How well, I know, because I know we're calling you every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we making any progress on it?
That's hard to say because I haven't had this before. I haven't had a true count or anything like that before. So our last street study was done in 2013, and potholes weren't counted or anything like that. So I've never had anything to compare it to. I feel like in order to make a dent to it, I need at least 2 pothole crews,
Yes.
if not 3.
I agree.
So, just based on my observation, I don't feel like we're making a dent in it right now.
Have you put a budget together on what that possibly may cost?
We have looked at it. I've been talking with Mr. Ellington quite a bit about it, so.
Yeah, I'd like that to be brought up at our workshop.
Okay, all right.
And then Jay, I would love to be able to have a schedule of where these guys are working, every week, because I know, 6 wards, we're all vying for you to be in our ward, and we want you there full-time in our ward. And,
Yes.
it's hard to tell people that you're gonna be there, and I know you've got a million requests, right?
Right.
I would like to see a little bit more transparency on how the allocation of that team is per ward. And I know I'm a give and take guy. I realize that, Director Roberts and Director Harris and the rest of us all have equally bad roads, right? But I still have to answer to the folks that
Oh, yeah, of
are in my
course.
ward.
So, Mr. Ellington and I have been talking quite a bit about that, and we would like to get to where we've got a set schedule. When we get a call about a pothole, we can look at our map and say, okay, we're going to be there in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. We'll be in your area. Because in the past, we've been so bad about, we get so many calls that we take them as they come. We do our best to try to tackle one area, but we get so many emergencies, we get pulled left and right, and that's where 2 or 3 crews is really gonna come in handy. I can take 2 or 3 crews and I can give them a set schedule, to where they're in Ward 1, this week, Ward 2 next week, so on and so forth. I need more guys
That's what
to
I'd
make
like to
that
see.
happen.
That's what I'd like to see, because even though you can't give me a direct answer on when they can be there, I get calls every day, and I would like to be able to say, the schedule says this, and we're
Absolutely.
gonna be in this area during this time, with a give and take of a few days or so.
Absolutely.
Right.
I want to be able to give that to you.
Yeah. And I just want to be able to protect you as well, because
Yeah.
I know that you have a list that I've given you, but I understand when someone has an emergency, that takes priority over that, and then it moves us further down the list, right? So
Right.
it'll help us, I think, as the directors and the mayor of the city to be able to have a better idea of where you've got those resources and how they're allocated.
Right, yes, sir.
And Tyler, we're gonna take care of this in the workshop, right? We're gonna discuss the manpower issues.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just got one question for you. I know the county writes tickets on a regular basis, you know, for overweight, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, they're going through the city streets, especially in my ward.
Yeah.
Going down Line Ferry and Union. Do we have any way of issuing citations to some of these trucks as well?
Not me personally. PD would have to do that. So we'd have to talk to PD about that. And I have some, I haven't talked to them about on residential roads. It is in our ordinances that if you live down there, you can take your truck down there. So but we also have an ordinance that you can't keep a truck over 1.5 tons on your residential property. So it's a little bit conflicting there. So that's a tough spot. But certainly if they don't live down there, then they're not supposed to be driving on those residential roads, on most of our roads, actually. We've got, I did talk to PD a little while back about keeping them off of Four States Parkway because they use that as a cut through. They get off on Arson Boulevard, go down, go to the interstate. They don't stay on the interstate and go around. So I'm trying to address that right now, get some signage up, and PD said that they would enforce it. So we have talked a little bit about that, but we've got quite a few ordinances that we need to update.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Director Harris?
Yes, okay, I just have been patient in a way. My first question, I know at the last board meeting, we ordered, agenda item number 8, we ordered a crack seal machine. How is you planning on using that in the process of, I know what it's used
So-
for.
This study right here, it notes all your different levels of cracking on all your roads. So from this, this study, I've got a map that I can separate out the low to medium density cracks, and I can give that map to my guys, send them out and crack seal those roads. I can give them a map of all the medium to high density areas and, say we need to chip seal this road or something like that. But that was one big, our old crack sealer machine caught fire last year and there was no repairing it. So we had to get something new. We've always had a crack sealing machine. We've got to do crack sealing, or those fair condition roads are gonna go to critical, and real fast after that, go to a loss condition.
And a little information to this board, that the last time that, back, I think 2012, the city had, 13, the city had issued a bond, which the voters voted on, a $20 million bond. And that's the last time that money was basically got based on, and we still paying the bond off now, for to do a street paving plan. And it was basically based on this book here, which I still have here. And this book basically had categories, each road, good to bad, and they based that on fixing the road, and the board ended up having a workshop and decided what road they wanted to fix, and they ward there. And we used the $10 million of that in the wards, but after that, the board agreed with less me. They went and voted and used $10 million of that bond issue to go over the crossroad and build a 4-lane concrete road on the north side of Cross Road for the bring in some business industries here. But I don't think nothing ever came through as a date because of that $10 million road over there. But the citizen had voted on a bond issue and for the do roads within the neighborhood on that. But I was just saying that just for information. And I noticed how they got these roads as a cost basis, and also they got it listed. And is there some reason to this not having the same thing, or would this show?
So I can provide that for you, but That information, like this information in the old street study, all that was given to me in a program. So if you want to tell me what you want to see, whether you want that, your worst road if I printed off that entire workbook, that would be extremely different. I mean, you're talking about 1,000
I
pages.
wouldn't want you to print it off. I said I can basically drive on those roads, and I can back tell you what's going on in my ward. It would be maybe Dudley, Oak Street is part of my ward, but part of it is in Ward 3. And that street real bad, and Dudley Street, but they did, the state did Division Street, and we did,
Yep.
Allen Street.
Yes.
And back
And
when
Ferguson.
this right here was done.
And
And
Ferguson,
part
yeah.
of Pinehurst and 12th Street would be the most road that I can determine that's got the most traffic out of what you call those collectors or arterial roads.
Which one?
The one that got the most traffic, like Dudley Street, Oak Street, and 12th Street.
Dudley and Oates, those would be collectors.
Okay.
Yes.
And I would based on, if I was doing something based on the road that got the most traffic in it, and based on the road that's kind of real bad and got the base. And I also would still use this right here, because this was a pretty good cost estimate. And based on, if I could just use what we did back in 2012, it would give me an idea as what, I really don't need this to tell you what road need to be done in Ward 2, but.
Yes,
just
so
make it here
I
and there.
have all of that information, and I will provide some of that to y'all at the workshop next week. I'm going to provide you as much data as possible without giving you the data on every single road. Some of that would be pointless, but I will provide you with priority projects. They'll be broken into major arterials, minor arterials, collectors, residential roads, that sort of thing. They'll each be assigned a PCI index, and that is your street rating right there. So we can prioritize projects based off of that. But yes, I will be giving you some of that information at the
That's
next
all.
workshop.
Any other questions for Tyler?
So just one more thing, Tyler. So my expectation is for our workshop, not just to discuss the overall plan and what we've got with this money that we've been given, but I want us to have a budget on what that second, because if we got 60 days, $25,000 in materials, 2,000 potholes, I understand they're not bad like some of the roads we have here. But if we could come up with the money and put a second crew, if we could do nothing by the end of the year, but address these 2,000 potholes, that would be a great, I think, thing for all of us and all of our wards. So I want you to please come next week, and I know you said you would, of having that budget of what that crew would cost.
Yes.
And having the labor cost of what that would be, and then making sure we know what the material cost of it is.
I'll be honest with you, it'll be impossible to do it before the end of the year, just
Well-
because any new guys I bring on, they're gonna have to be trained. It's gonna take them some time to
Well, I
learn
think if
proper
we knocked
ways,
a good
that sort of
dent in
thing.
it, right?
Yes,
Knocked a
yeah,
good dent in it.
yeah.
I think it would show good faith to the citizens that
Mhm.
we're being good stewards and we're hearing them
Mm-hmm.
on what their concerns are, because I get calls every day of people that are saying, I have new rims, my rims have scratched
Oh,
up, I popped a tire. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we hear this on a regular basis, and I think that the more emphasis we can put on that, it's just gonna show good faith that we're doing our best to try to get there. And I know you
Absolutely.
are doing your best, Tyler, but you know what? Everybody thinks their pothole is the most important one, right?
That's right, yes, sir.
So thank you for all you're doing also.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, thank you, Tyler. Just
Sir.
for clarification, the workshop is the 28th, it's not next week.
No.
It was moved.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
28th. At this time, we'll move into our consent agenda, which is the approval of the minutes of the rescheduled regular meeting of September the 7th. What would be the board's desire to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The consent agenda passes. So moving right along to our regular agenda, item number 3 is to adopt a resolution to renew and extend the TWU fiscal 2021 budget to continue operation until 21-22 budget is approved. Interim Executive Director Gary Smith and Finance Director Tricia Briggs.
Mayor, members of the board, I'm Gary Smith, the new interim executive director, and This is Tricia Briggs, our finance director, and we're here to answer any questions you may have on this request.
So first of all, I've got a question, and I want to thank both of you for everything that you do. I know that this board, a few months ago, or several months ago, we passed a increase that was going to help with your buildup of reserves of what that is. And we were told at that time by the director and the finance director at that time that it was gonna bring us up to over 20 days. I've asked that question several times and I have not been given an answer. Where are we at on operating reserves in relation to that increase that we've done? And what are we looking like? You know, the concern we had, we passed a 10% increase. You guys asked for, I think, at 16 or 17 to 18, I think it was. It didn't go before the board. The 10 did. We approved it. My concern as a director was I don't want to go back to back and try to approve another increase, because that's never popular with anyone. So if you guys can give me an idea of where you are at on that, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, as far as the budget on the revised numbers for 21, we ended up at about 24 days of reserves. And then the projected for 22 is around 38 days.
Based off the current rates of where we are right now, Tricia?
Yes, sir.
There's an 8.5%.
It was 8.5.
It was 8.5, that's right.
Yeah.
It was 8.5, thanks for correcting.
So we're going in the right direction with that rate increase.
So do you guys anticipate us having to come back, or are you gonna come back and ask us for any rate increases in the next 6 months to a year?
I don't expect to have to do so, no.
Well, we're doing a rate study that y'all approved.
Yeah.
And that's just now getting started.
Yeah.
The company, I can't remember the name of the company, I'm sorry, but we're actually gonna be talking with them this week. Nugent, yes, sir. And we're gonna be getting with them this week, and they said it'll take about 8 months to finish the study. There's a lot of stuff we've got to get done. Try to wrap up the budget. With everything we lost, it kind of took us away, but we'll be starting on that now. We're actually meeting Thursday to get that started. But I'll be able to answer that question more, but within 8 months, no. But after the 8 months, we're gonna see what they recommend.
So where are we at on hiring a person that's over the IT department? I know we have that position that's been open for a while.
We hired.
You hired a person?
Brandon Usleton, we hired him to take the job.
Was that internal promotion?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. First of all, I'm very, very proud of the fact that we've got somebody like you that we could turn it over after JD retired. So we're very blessed to have you. And Tricia, I think you're doing a great job with the finances. Thank you for the transparency. Those are the questions that I would love to be able to have answered on a regular basis, because, you know, raising rates are never popular with anyone.
Yes, sir. No, we apologize for the delay. There was just, Tricia's been literally 100 hours a week. We lost almost everything in the cyber attack. She's been able to recreate everything, and she's gonna have everything ready this week for the board to look at the budget.
So did y'all backfill Brandon's position?
Yes, sir, in-house.
Have you beefed up the technology department?
Well, we're fully staffed for the first time in a year, maybe.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
We hired Bill Brant, Kevin's in-house, and Brandon's in-house, and hired out for the other tech position.
Okay, thank you, guys.
I do have one question. When you call, I work at Bi-State, so when you call for IT, you know, you leave a message, they call you back, but it's from some center out on Summer Hill or Richmond Road. Is that part of TWU?
No, sir, they're at 808 Wood Street, right beside us.
Okay, because this was early on when this first started.
Now, we used to be on Summer Hill Road.
Uh-huh.
We had, IT was there, but since we're over at 808.
Okay.
That's it.
Now, are they contracted or are they all TW employees?
They're all TW employees.
Okay,
They're split, just like the rest of us with Arkansas, Texas.
gotcha.
Is there any other questions?
I have one question. I hate to ask about a specific thing, but East 35th Street, that leak at
Yes, ma'am, I can
Sanderson.
answer that.
It's been about 2 years.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm serious.
You know, it has, and
Uh-huh.
it took a while to figure out how to shut it off. The valves were put in the 70s, that 24-inch main.
Okay.
We did finally figure out how to shut it. Most of the valves wouldn't work. They wouldn't completely close, so it was gonna take several hundred people that were gonna put out of service. So that took several months for that to take place, and then, so we finally got a plan together. We're gonna put in some, without going into too much detail, we had a plan together, we bid it out. Well, right now, the problem is we can't get contractors to bid. They met with us and said they won't even bid our projects till next year, because they're all backed up. But we did get one bidder, but it was $262,000
Oh, it was.
to make that repair. And we had the money, and it was 3 times what it should be.
Right.
So we're kind of waiting. It's nothing that's in danger, it looks bad, because you got
Right.
the water running down
Right.
30 feet, and I'm sorry. But we're hoping next year, the prices are going down. We've got a couple contractors said they might can start bidding in October, November, but they said don't count on it. But we're getting stuff shelf ready, plans are gonna be ready so that we can start bidding out if the budget's approved at all these projects. But that's the top priority.
Okay, thank you.
And I will say, we've met several times on that project, Director Minor. And it
Yeah.
was, as the residents, a lot of those residents have been even contacted over there. And that's a 5, 6, 7 day shut-off water project. And the water finally found a way actually to the storm drain.
Yeah.
It was actually stopped
Yeah.
running down the road some. And then, as he said, it's been very difficult to try to get somebody to bid and do that job. And that's extremely high to have that thing
And while
fixed. but
holding 200
It is a
residents.
priority.
Yeah.
Ma'am?
Have we made Tricia the permanent finance director?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Congratulations, well deserved.
thank you.
I support that.
Any other questions?
I
If
do
not-
have one comment.
Yes.
Gary, I look forward to speaking with you after the study is complete, so we can, get that foresight on future raises.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right,
Same
thanks.
here.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other discussion? No, we'd have the city attorney read the resolution.
As a result, whereas as a result of the 2020 cyber attack on the city and its IT systems, finalization of the FY 2021-2022 Texarkana Water Utilities budget has been delayed, and whereas it is anticipated that the proposed FY 2021-22 budget will be submitted to the Board of Directors for consideration on or about October 4, 2021, the October 4, 2021 regular meeting of the Board of Directors. And whereas to provide for the continued operation of TWU as is necessary to renew and extend the FY 2020-21 budget as the same has been heretofore amended for the FY 2021-22 budget period, but only until such time as the FY 2021-2022 budget is approved by the board and effective as to TWU. And whereas the city manager and utility staff recommend approval, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, that the TWU FY 2021-2022 budget, as originally approved by Resolution 2021-8, and thereafter amended, is hereby renewed and extended until such time as the TWU FY 2021-2022 budget is approved by the board and effective as the TWU passed and approved this 20th day of September 2021.
Okay, so if the board has heard the resolution, what would be the board's desire to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
So a motion to adopt to approve the resolution. Is there any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Hollowbush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor,
Yes,
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes. The resolution passes. Item number 4, adopt a resolution authorizing city manager to enter into a contract with Kessler International to complete the Nix Creek dredging and bank stabilization project. Public Works, Tyler Richards.
Yeah, so we publicly advertised for this project. We only received one bid. They were out of Little Rock, just like Gary was just saying. It's impossible to get a contractor around here right now. They're so swamped, they're not bidding new jobs. But I will say that one bid came in much lower than anticipated. We really thought that we were going to have to cut a lot of stuff out of the project to be within budget. But that bid came in at $647,865.76, and I've got about $660,000 left in the budget. So it came in great. The engineers have vetted this contractor. I've looked into them as well. They seem to have done great work. They've done a lot of work with the state Army Corps of Engineers doing this exact type of work. So we are comfortable with recommending this contractor.
So I see in the information where the $647,000 falls. Can you give me an estimate of what percentage of Nix Creek that is and where the scope of this work? I see the scope of the work. What percentage of that is going to cover Nix Creek? Half of it,
It's-
third of it?
Well, every bit of that 640, oh, I'm sorry, I got you.
How much are we gonna get done?
It's very spread out. I mean, we've got a spot here, a spot there, all the way from Pondexter Complex, all the way up to Arkansas Boulevard. So, I mean, it's real spotty in there. But I will say this, the plans that the engineers did for us are a 5-year plan. So I would estimate we're probably tackling about 20% of the problem.
Does anybody got the worst 20%?
Yeah, the worst, that's
What
right.
I'm at. Anybody else? Director Harris?
How much money you said that was used and how much you got left?
I'm sorry.
How much money did you state that was used on this project, and how much?
We budgeted $750,000. The engineer's contract was 80-something thousand. So we've got somewhere around 660 to 670,000 left in the budget there.
Okay, and.
$40,000 of that went to an engineer in Sulphur Springs to do the wetland delineation. That is required by the Army Corps of Engineers, and it is extremely expensive.
And does any of this requiring that, how much of this work gonna be done in the neighborhood or the neighborhood areas per se?
In the neighborhood area? I'm sorry, can you
Well,
elaborate?
what I'm getting at is, it was brought to my attention that, that the video that was made a while back, it was on the other side of the 71, East Street over there by the Boys Club. And people had a lot of concern. They asked me, when you gonna come and do that same work in the
So
neighborhood?
we're going to pick back up at the East Street Bridge and go back upstream. We're gonna pick up where we left off. We left from down there by the rec center, we jumped up to Ed Worrell Park. We cut all of that so we can see the, how bad the erosion, we knew we had some really bad erosion issues in that area, and we needed to get a lot of that cut back so the engineers could look at it. So we jumped up there. Right now, the contractor that's doing that, his track hoe and his bush hog that he's using broke down. He had to send it back to the manufacturer. They're sending him a new one. He's supposed to get that new one this week, and then he's gonna jump back on it. But we haven't done anything here for the last week and a half to 2 weeks, I believe it is, because he's been broke down.
In the area I mostly was talking about what Mr. Dinkin has been coming to the board
Yes.
to express. That area there from 71 going back, then going up north, up to 9th Street, and that's the area I was.
Yes, so as soon as he gets his new bush hog back, we've got to cut a small section of New Creek. That's not gonna take very long. I only expect that to take a few days. As soon as he's done with that, he's jumping back down to Nix Creek at the East Street Bridge and gonna work his way upstream towards 9th Street.
And none of this money is allocated for any paving of the creek, right? If I'm right or wrong?
No, we're not able to pave any of the creek, no.
Pave, okay.
Yeah.
So what is gonna be done keeping, next, in a year or so, all that gonna probably be rolled back?
No, we're dredging the creek as
Uh-huh.
long as doing some bank stabilization. We're not gonna be able to stabilize everything that's there. Like I was just telling Mayor, we're addressing maybe 20% of our problems. We're gonna stabilize as much as possible though. But if we continue, if we don't do anything, then, I mean, we're just gonna exponentially get worse. So yes, we've got some, we're gonna lay some slopes back along the creek. And we're gonna lose part of Nix Creek Trail with that, but we're putting it back with this project. We're going to place, I forget what they're called, but they're similar to gabion baskets, to stabilize those banks so that erosion stops and we could stop getting these large sediment deposits.
And I guess I'll wait till the workshop and argue about Jones Creek. That's gonna be another day, another fight, because I noticed that's none of that, but this was, and from the get-go, was only looking at Nix Creek. But
And what was that? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Jones Creek, I noticed none of that wasn't used in this budget, but I said from the get-go, that was, when I said I was waiting to order that on our workshop on the 28th. I put in a request of the COVID money, the American Rescue Plan, to use some of that for Jones Creek and Nick Creek, but we are waiting to order about that to come to the workshop.
So Tyler, is that 20% gonna address the major flooding issues that we have with some of our residents in their homes?
It will impact it a very small bit, but it's not gonna be a noticeable difference to your eye. It is not going to decrease the floodplain whatsoever. Those areas are in floodplain, they are still going to flood. There's nothing that we can do to stop that. We are simply removing these large sediment deposits, trying to stabilize those banks. Those sediment deposits, they do decrease capacity of the creek, but what happens when you get those large sediment deposits, the creek finds another path. It ends up, just like down at the rec center, we've got a large deposit there. The creek has created a new path around that sediment deposit, so you haven't lost an incredible amount of capacity. We have just been extremely unfortunate in the last couple of years with some heavy rains. We had a 100-year storm last year, and at the beginning of this year, we had a 50. That's pretty unheard of. There's nothing that we can do to stop that.
Well, I know that, and I know he's here tonight, David Peavy had come before the board in citizens communication one time, and he had talked about an idea of these retaining areas, retaining
Yes.
ponds.
Yes.
Have we looked at doing, because you would
All the
seem
time.
like we've looked at that, because we have
Yes.
property, or we have available areas within that, it would seem like we would be able to dig that out to provide some alleviated relief on those areas where those houses are getting flooded out.
Absolutely, that is a dream of mine. I want to make that happen. You're talking about $500,000 to $1 million projects. It's not cheap. It's
To dig
still
them out,
expensive.
what would we
Yeah,
have to
it's-
concrete them, dig them out? and
No, there's a ton of excavation involved, but in order to detain water along Nix Creek, there is a lot of water coming through Nix
Oh, yeah,
Creek.
I
So,
know. I'm
so
out
any,
there.
any detention is going to be a very large project along there. It would be better to address some of the tributaries, detention along some of the tributaries going into Nix Creek. I've got several locations where I would like to build detention ponds, and I want to start incorporating some of those projects into our budget. That is truly going to be the only thing that helps any flooding issues, is providing some detention in areas.
Yeah, I think we've got to put everything we can on the table, because we've got poor folks that have been flooded and they redo their house and they're flooded again.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
And, it's,
They're still scared.
yeah.
They're running
Yeah.
scared because we haven't cleaned out.
I
The
get
citizens-
phone calls before every single rain. I know they're scared. They're very scared.
They seem to think that if we would clear the trees and
Yeah.
clear them out, that would, automatically.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's
It's
just
just
not
the
true.
volume of water.
I try my best to explain that, but I don't know if it makes a whole lot of impact, but I tell them that I'll do everything I possibly can to help.
Does anybody have any questions of Tyler? If not, I would instruct the city attorney to read the resolution.
Whereas upon advertisement, a low bid in the amount of $647,865.76 was submitted for the Nix Creek Dredging and Bank Stabilization Project by Kessler International Incorporated, and whereas funds for such construction are budgeted, and whereas the city manager and staff recommend board approval, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, that the city manager is authorized to enter into a contract with Kessler International Incorporated for the purposes and the amount set forth above, passed and approved this 20th day of September 2021.
As you've heard the resolution, what would be the board's desire to adopt?
Motion.
Second. So I have a motion and a second to approve and adopt the resolution. Is there any other discussion? If not, could you call the roll?
Hollibush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes. So the resolution passes. The last item on the agenda is item number 5, to adopt an ordinance waiving competitive bidding requirements and authorizing the purchase of the Motorola FlexCAD RMS and Jail Manager Systems, CRC Doug Avery. Just as a prelude to Doug, is that Brewer and I are on the bi-state committee. This has been something that we have worked on for at least the last 4 months, Doug, probably. It's been in the making for a number of years, 2 to 3 years, to try to get this approved. This is something that is desperately needed for our law enforcement. This will be used by the city of Texarkana, Arkansas, the city of Texarkana, Texas, and Bowie County. There was a lot of thought, a lot of work done by Doug Avery in reviewing this, and the way that this works is that the bi-state approves this through the bi-state budget, which this is going to be funded through some cost cutting that has been done through the bi-state through the next several years. This requires all 3 entities to support, and this was voted on last Friday as a unanimous support and vote by Bowie County, the city of Texarkana, Texas, and Director Brewer and I, all supporting it. Our at-large member on that committee is the Chamber of Commerce, was represented by Jennifer Harlan, and she also supported it. So I just want to say that, first of all, I appreciate Doug's work in that, the education process that he gave Director Brewer and I as to why this was important, how it would be paid for, and getting it approved. It requires the signature. This contract requires the signature of the Bowie County judge and our city manager and the city of Texarkana, Texas city manager to validate. The city manager cannot approve without authorization from this board. So it's a very needed project.
That was pretty good a summary. In late 2019, the Law Enforcement Advisory Committee, which is made up of the 2 chiefs of police and the sheriff in Bowie County, came to me and asked me to try to find a program that all 3 entities could use for the computer-aided dispatch and records management and jail manager for the Bowie County Jail. In 2003, Texarkana, Arkansas purchased ADSI, and we have been using that since 2003. 2020 is the end of life for this version, so we are running on borrowed time. Why that is important for Texarkana, Arkansas is that the ADSI collects all the police reports, and we have something called NIBRS, which is the National Incident-Based Reporting System. It replaced UCR. It is mandatory federally. We have to submit NIBRS. It has to be done monthly, and the error rate must be under 4%. Arkansas has been NIBRS compliant since 2011. I worked on that when we were out of compliance in 2011. I worked on it through the time I retired last year, and it is a beast. Texarkana, Texas also has the same mandate, as well as Bowie County. They are currently using a separate records manager. So if a police officer in Texarkana, Texas or Bowie County writes a report that involves a suspect for Texarkana, Arkansas is never going to know that because they can't see the report. I've been in records and communications for 3 years. When I try to log into Odyssey, which is the records management for Texas, I don't know what I'm doing. I've been there 3 years, and I still can't figure it out. So you can imagine a patrol officer that never deals with it trying to log in to see that. Currently, the CAD program, which is your computer-aided dispatch, when someone calls 911, we answer it, we immediately begin putting the call into the system. We are low on dispatchers and 911 call takers. I have 10 openings. I have had as low as 7. It is a difficult job. They work 12-hour days. Most of them are working 5 and 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. There have been many times that I have had to pull a 12-hour shift and answer 911. I don't type very fast, but when I can out-type the CAD program, there's a problem. That CAD program is not made for an agency this size. It would be fine for Texarkana, Arkansas by itself. That's not how we operate. We all operate together. We dispatch for everything from Texarkana, Arkansas city limits to Bowie County line. The only area we don't dispatch is New Boston, Texas. Everything else, we take all the 911 calls, we dispatch for all the volunteer fire departments, we dispatch for both fire departments, we dispatch for both police departments, we dispatch for Bowie County Sheriff's Department, Nash, Wake Village, Hooks, DeKalb. We're busy. We need a program that is substantial enough to handle that. There are not very many vendors who can do what Motorola can do. Motorola is a multi-billion-dollar company that its basis is public safety. That's what it works on. This program that we are proposing to purchase is a vetted program. We traveled to Texas and looked at an agency that was using Odyssey Courts, which is what Bowie County uses, and the law enforcement loves Motorola Flex. Wendy Herring is my communications manager. She worked at Hot Springs PD. They have Motorola. So I'm relying on someone who used the program to its fullest potential. When Bi-State was built in 1985, it was 40 years ahead of its time. Honest to goodness. Putting all three entities, actually four at that time, all together with one combined records function, one combined dispatch function, everything together. Around about 1992, feelings started getting hurt, things moved away, and we've kind of gone our own way. When computers came around and we started doing this, we couldn't get some of the agencies to do, so we went one way and everybody else went another. It's time that we all get where we need to be, and we all operate off one system so that if an Arkansas officer writes a report and they see that a Texas unit has just arrested that person 3 days before for whatever it is, that officer has all that information. It's an officer safety issue. We spent in 2017, 18, we spent about $700,000 on new radios. They are all Motorola radios that are fully incorporated with Motorola Flex. It is not cheap. It's a $1.7 million project, and the total cost is going to be $2.5 for a 5-year locked-in price. But right now, we're paying maintenance on ADSI, we're paying maintenance on CAD, we're paying maintenance on Odyssey, we're paying maintenance on this, and we're coming in at about $160,000 on stuff that's end of life or isn't functional. $198,000 a year is not much to have a top-of-the-line program that is fully functional and capable so the officers can use it to the full extent. Since I took over as CRC director in 2018, we have not had full staff. I wish I could be like TWIT, who, by the way, they stole my guy to become fully staffed. So now I'm not fully staffed in IT, but be that as it may, I would love to be fully staffed, but I'm not. Because I'm not, the way Texas does their budgeting, I had about $400,000 to $600,000 that was not spent but approved in 2018 and 2019. Then COVID happens and everything shuts down, and we know where that happened. And then we had the cyber attack that the CRC IT people found, by the way, and were able to start shutting things off so we didn't lose everything. And we have been unable to fill all the positions in dispatch. We have savings of approximately $693,000 from 2020. We are going to have, I'm going to estimate between $675,000 and $725,000 this year. The way Texas does their budgeting, you understand, Bi-State, all the records and communications employees are Texas employees. I'm the Arkansas employee. But all three entities pay a third, a third, and a third. So it makes sense for that to come out of my budget. Total cost is 1.7. The IAC approved Friday morning to utilize the approved but unexpended funds from 2020 and 2021, which will be approximately $1.2 to $1.3 million. We already have. It's already there.
Yeah,
It just hasn't been sent back to the cities yet.
yeah.
It's there to be spent. So we need this, we need to do it. Why not be good stewards of the money that was given to me, entrusted to me to spend, is then to get a program that is fully functional and can present reports. The chief of police is going to get a daily dashboard that will show her what's happened in the city, and she can customize that. The ad hoc reporting of Motorola, they have, I think, 2,000 pre-made reports, and we can make more. So it just makes sense. Instead of me coming saying, okay, I'm gonna need 1.7 million, well, not really. I really only need about 400 to 500,000.
Right.
But with the 2022 budget coming up, at the end of 2022, the way these payments are staggered out, I won't make the final payment until we go live. It's a 14 to 16 month go live. And that, again, don't forget, we're living on borrowed time with the records management. I am praying that everything functions until I can turn it off and go to Motorola. But I still have things I have to pay for, but I don't think in reality I'm going to be able to fill all 10 positions and be able to keep them. We have been able to retain probably 3 out of 4 people we've hired. Used to be 1 out of 4, so we're doing better, but it takes a long time to get them trained. So I think the money will be there. If it is not, Rhonda and I have talked at length for a year and a half about how to fund this. And this is the plan we both came up with that would be the best way to do it in our opinion. Do you guys have any questions? It's a 139-page document. I have read all 139 pages multiple times. This was sent to Mr. Madison, to Mr. Lewis, the Texas City Attorney, and to Carol Dalby. They have all reviewed it. Mr. Madison and Mr. Lewis have spent countless hours, and I am very appreciative of them looking at the agreement and having Motorola make some modifications to the wording. And I think we have a finished product ready for signature right now.
Now, I know Wendy has, I think she runs when she sees me coming because, with questions. But the support, which I know some of you don't understand, with Odyssey is a nightmare.
Yes, sir.
It truly is. With this switching over, is the support going to be there for you?
Yes, sir.
Is it a 24/7 support?
It is initially, and then it goes to a business deal, but to business hours. However, the new IT Tech 2 person that I just promoted will go through mandatory training and will be able to fix almost anything in the middle of the night until we can get with Motorola tech support the next morning. I mean, they're going to really train them up.
Now, with the jail manager, Odyssey still has the case manager.
Yes, sir.
Is it going to be a totally different jail manager?
We will have a totally separate jail manager. Jail manager will be Flex, and there is a interface that is already currently built. It is utilized in Montgomery County, Texas. It has a 15% error rate, which is not bad, but they have taken that back in, and they are working on it now. I am told, when I talked to Doug Friday afternoon, Doug Hutt is the salesman, he said they're down to about a 3% error rate, and it's just data. It's just going in and clicking, I don't know about computers, but just clicking this button and that button so the data fields transfer.
So law enforcement would be using the Flex?
Yes.
And then the courts would still be using
Odyssey.
Odyssey Jail Manager?
Yes, sir. Yes, well, no. You'll be using Odyssey Case Manager, but Odyssey or the Flex Jail Manager is part of this program.
Okay.
When an officer writes a report and they begin filling it out, putting the suspect and victim and all that, it's auto-populating. When they click arrestee, it's auto-populating the arrest report. When they get up to the jail, it simply goes straight into jail manager behind the scenes with the computer stuff, and then the interface is between jail manager and Odyssey Courts, and it's feeding the information so that the DA's office can then begin the case to present to
I
court.
like that.
Yes, sir. That has been the sticking point, and we have spent many, many, many hours in the last 3 months working
The
on
way
that.
jail manager is in Odyssey, sometimes you can't find anything.
That is correct.
I mean, it's a nightmare.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Is there any other comment?
Thanks, Doug. Thanks, Wendy, for all you do. No, it's a tough job.
Same here, Doug. I appreciate your attention to detail is above reproach, and the timing and synchronization is very urgent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? I remind the board that this is an ordinance, an emergency clause has been asked for. What would be the board's desire to have the ordinance read on its first reading tonight?
First reading, abbreviated form.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to have the ordinance read on its first reading tonight. Is there any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Hollabush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance approving and authorizing the city manager on behalf of the city of Texarkana, Arkansas to enter into an agreement with Texarkana, Texas, Bowie County, Texas, and Motorola Solutions Incorporated to provide for the purchase and procurement of a computer-aided dispatch and record system and services, waiving any applicable competitive bidding provision, for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its first reading. What would be the desire of the board to have it read on its second reading?
Motion
Second reading, abbreviated form, please.
So a motion and a second to have it read in its abbreviated form. Is there any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Hollabush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance approving and authorizing the city manager on behalf of the city of Texarkana, Arkansas to enter into an agreement with Texarkana, Texas, Bowie County, Texas, and Motorola Solutions Incorporated to provide for the purchase and procurement of a computer-aided dispatch and record system and services, waiving any applicable competitive bidding provision, for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its second reading. What would be the desire of the board to have it read on its third and final reading tonight?
Third reading, abbreviated form?
Second.
Motion and a second to have it read on its third reading, its abbreviated form. Is there any other discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Hollabush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance approving and authorizing the city manager on behalf of the city of Texarkana, Arkansas to enter into an agreement with Texarkana, Texas, Bowie County, Texas, and Motorola Solutions Incorporated to provide for the purchase and procurement of a computer-aided dispatch and record system and services, waiving any applicable competitive bidding provision, for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its third and final reading tonight. What would be the board's desire to adopt this ordinance?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion is second to adopt. Prior to the board voting to adopt, is there anyone here that wishes to address the board either for or against this ordinance? Hearing and seeing none, could you call the roll?
Hollabush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes. So the ordinance is adopted. They have asked for an emergency clause to be attached. What would be the board's desire to attach an emergency clause?
Motion
I'll
to
make a-
attach.
Second.
Motion and second to approve emergency clause. Is there any other discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Hollabush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes, so emergency clause is attached. So moving right along, the last thing on our agenda tonight is a report from our city manager.
Mayor and board members, I have 2 or 3 items for you. The first of those is I have met with our waste haulers and am working to entertain their desire to look at some rate increases and have some discussions about the future. So I request, Mayor, that we set a solid waste committee meeting here within the next 30 days or so to begin the discussion about the new RFP that we will put together that will be part of our next generation of hauling. So we will bring forward in our budget process the process for looking at the fees that we're charging currently, and then we will move forward with the RFP process. So what I need from y'all is your input into that process as we move it forward. The next one is to look at economic development in our community as well too, and actually ask you to have the Economic Development Committee meet also, just to work on some direction for your city manager, as well as some coordination with our multiple functions that we have from the chamber and ready, et cetera, so we can all get around the table and have some discussions together. So try to have that Economic Development Committee meet as well. The third is I'd like to tell you that I am progressing on the staff side with working on a infill housing project, hopefully to backfill some of our problem areas in relationship to dilapidated housing and tagged structures. We're working on that pilot. We have a draft that staff is looking at now, and we hope to have that available to have discussion in the next 30 to 60 days as well. So I'm not sure which committee we need to put that in, but again, we'll bring that forward. We may bring that forward as a presentation to the board meeting and have that discussion. It's an important process for us. Our budget process on the staff side has begun, and Tyronda's got us started with a schedule we've got laid out in front of us, and we will give you your portions of that as we move forward here shortly. And let's see, the last item I had for you, ARPA is set for the 28th at 5:30. Now again, remember we kept talking about the presentation of the streets. That's the first time you will see the streets and a recommendation about which streets we need to try to fund with those funds. We will continue the discussion about streets with the budget process as we bring it forward as well too. So we'll have a couple of times to talk about that as over the next 60 days or so as we work through that process. And so trying to allocate some funds into doing some work on our street process. Last piece I think I provided to you, if we didn't get it to you, it's a 90-day evaluation that I ask you to look at and try to complete for me and get that back to me as soon as you can. So that helps me figure out if I'm working in the right direction for you. And I'm doing that with y'all, and I'm also doing that with our staff folks as well. That's all I have, man.
Anybody else have any comments? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion for adjournment, please.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Is there any other discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Holiday,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes, we're adjourned.